Welcome back to the Two Blues podcast and to the latest instalment of Loan Watch, a series taking a close look at the Chelsea youngsters on loan across the globe this season. And as 2024 draws to an end, we are getting closer, just a couple of weeks away now from the January transfer window reopening. We're just going to go through the Chelsea loans, have a quick look and brief assessment on how they've been doing so far this season, and have a quick look at a couple players which might be brought back into the fold, and also a couple of the squad members which may join the loan list for the second half of the 24-25 campaign. So before we get into it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, as always, and follow at Two Blues Podcast on the Instagram and TikTok. But we will jump straight into it with Ligue 1 Strasbourg. The heights are being hit. Caleb Wiley, who has undergone, I think, knee surgery in the last few weeks, was at Stamford Bridge the other day watching a game. I believe it's the first time that he's made the trip down to London, the first time that he has come to watch Chelsea. Hasn't got the minutes that we would have hoped so far this year, but fingers crossed the second half of the season is a lot more fruitful for him, both in terms of minutes, performances, and obviously his development. But two players that are taking Ligue 1 by storm. Đorđe Petrović in goal. Đorđe Petrović has recently been called up. He's had 12 appearances this season for Strasbourg in Ligue 1. He has recently been called up for the first time to the Serbian national team, made two great performances there in his first two games, and since then has dropped four brilliant performances in goal in Ligue 1. So one against Nice, one against Brest, one against Reims, and one against Le Havre. Apologies for my pronunciation on those French words. I'm very British, if you couldn't tell already. But two clean sheets back to back. 3-0 they beat Le Havre, and Reims was 0-0. So two clean sheets in a week for Đorđe Petrović. He is picking up green scores on FootMob. He is picking up good saves. I mean, the promo around him, the PR around him, I mean, the Strasbourg Instagram, the League on Instagram, everyone loves him. Everyone seems to rate him incredibly highly. It's just the Chelsea hierarchy that don't. Chelsea fans, similarly, very, very fond of Đorđe Petrović. So it's fantastic to see, because I have kind of long maintained that, the fact that he was loaned out this season, particularly to a sister club, I felt like that meant it was the end of the road for him, particularly in a Chelsea shirt. Great to see that this may not be the option. I mean, I know Maresca has kind of said, look, nobody's favourites, nobody's guaranteed anything. And I do feel like there is more chance for Đorđe Petrović to come back in the fold than I thought at the start of the season. And definitely, with these performances, definitely helping. But look, the goalkeeper situation is one that we need to take a close look at the end of the season. It's not really a January conversation. We're still working out who our number one is. I know that Maresca's number one is Sanchez. Chelsea fans, their number one is Jorgensen. We have two players that are kind of battling for a league spot, if you will, there. And like I said, I know Robert Sanchez is the established number one, but, I'm not alone. There are a lot of Chelsea fans that do feel Jorgensen does deserve an opportunity in the Premier League. And obviously he has got Premier League minutes in a recent game, racking up clean sheets and some great saves in the Conference League. A shame that he didn't get a clean sheet last night against Shamrock at home, but again, nothing he could have done for that goal, not his fault. In terms of errors leading to goals, distribution, I feel like Jorgensen clears Sanchez in so many different aspects. He ticks so many more boxes that I'm kind of hesitant to tick. I've put a dot next to a Robert Sanchez. So Jorgensen for me, definitely above Sanchez in that pecking order, but it would be really interesting if Đorđe Petrović was to come back into the fold, and if we were to pick two keepers out of these three, which one would get the chop? Because I think based on the form of this season, I think Jorgensen would probably get the chop from Maresca, but I would not. Sanchez is my least favourite out of the three. Let's leave it like that. But another player setting the world on fire, not just setting France on fire, but the world. Andrey Santos picked up another goal in the game against Le Havre. He picked up the third goal. The geezer is I think it's 6 goals in the league this year. He's undoubtedly the best under-21 talent in Europe. I said undoubtedly. I said that with a lot of chest there. He's one of the best under-21 talents playing in Europe's top leagues at the moment. I've had to word that with a lot of ambiguity, with a lot of little gimmies in there, but Andrey Santos was the player that I was, and I'm going to be repeating myself for a lot of what I say about Andrey Santos and what I have said about him in past Lone Watch episodes, ever since he has been brought into this Chelsea fold, ever since we bought him from Vasco da Gama. I think I've been intrigued by him. He is a profile of player I rate incredibly highly because I think they are a dime a dozen, and that is a box-to-box midfielder, a number 8 that can do everything. Chelsea haven't seen one since Frank Lampard. You know what I'm saying? Like, Oscar was the closest that we got, and he was, more flair. He didn't really have the grit to play a deeper role. Andrey Santos is like a refined Oscar. He has all of that talent going forward, but he also has the versatility, the strength, the passing, the distribution. Yeah, I think Andrey Santos is a quality individual, and I can say far and above I've watched more of Andrey Santos than any other loan player for Chelsea over the last 2-3 years. I mean, Esteval Willian maybe this season, the only other one that I've been keeping probably a similar kind of, in terms of the watch hours, a similar eye on, because, we've just seen so much of him, and the explosion from Esteval has been massive. But Andrey Santos, undoubtedly for me, the most enjoyable loan watch, the most successful loan this season, the most enjoyable player to watch in that Strasbourg team. I think the fact that he's captained them at times. The fact that he is their talisman, the fact that he is their go-to guy, their box-to-box centre 8, and he's under 21 on loan. It can't go understated what he's doing in one of the top leagues in Europe. I genuinely think this guy, and I know we say it so often, this guy 100% has the quality to be world-class, the ability, the potential to be world-class. I think it was one of those where in the pre-season tour in the US with Pochettino, when we went over there and we were playing some lovely attacking stuff, and that was kind of when we, as Chelsea fans, started to buy into the Pochettino project, because we saw an attacking identity immediately. Maatsen flying on the left. You had Casadei and Andrey Santos working their socks off in the centre of midfield, and I kind of said with both of them, again, Casadei, a player that I was watching very closely kind of last season, has dropped off for me this season, but Casadei, that's again through no fault of his own. I think in terms of the minutes, he definitely could be getting more minutes over players like Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, maybe even Chukwuemeka, who obviously seems to have fallen out of favour. And if we listen to Enzo Maresca and what he has said today, looks like Carney Chukwuemeka will be sold in January. But that is, of course, another episode to go into. But Andrey Santos, leave well alone. Let's just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. No reason to bring him back into the fold. Let's just let him see out this season. This is arguably going to be one of the most successful loan seasons for a Chelsea youngster in recent history, up there with Mason Mount at Vitesse, Breuer at Vitesse. We used to have some fantastic loans and, making waves every single year. And I think, Hutchinson last year for Ipswich. And I think, Andrey Santos is definitely this guy this year, that guy. Is definitely that guy this year. He's grabbing, headlines, not just from Chelsea fans, but across France. Other clubs starting to perk up, starting to go, who's this kid? Oh, hang on a minute, he's part of Chelsea's project. That is going to be the case for a lot of young talent over the next few years. Players are going to be talked up. Nobody's going to know who they are. All of a sudden, they're going to burst onto the scene, akin to Micah Richards, and you're going to hear, where's this player going? Oh, shit, Chelsea have got him locked down to a 10-year contract, and he's part of the Blue Coat. Listen, they've done some very, very good business, and bringing Andrey Santos in from Vasco da Gama was one of those good pieces of business. Now we'll kind of go briefly, just kind of run through. I know I said I'll give kind of a quick brief, but I am conscious that I've spent quite a long time talking about Strasbourg already. Alfie Gilchrist, very successful loan for him so far. If I'm not mistaken, Sheffield United are still top of the league, or are top of the league. It was very close when I last checked. I think it was last week. But yeah, he's still performing, getting pretty much 90 minutes pretty much every week for Sheffield. And obviously, the expertise that he can gain from a physical championship battle at the top, it's incredibly competitive. I don't think we can understate how good, how competitive, how difficult the championship gets, particularly in the back end of the season. So I think for Alfie Gilchrist, this is the perfect loan. It's with all the talk about Josh Achimpong not knowing where his next move is, not knowing how his career will progress, this is the perfect plan, the perfect case study. You break into the Chelsea team, you do enough to know that you can do your job. You know, you don't have to blow the world away. You don't have to, you know, score goals. You don't have to slot right in and be a first teamer straight away. That's not how it works. But if you show that you can come in and do that when needed, when asked, then you can, you know, go and build yourself out, go and build your physicality. Because let's be honest, even with all the games that Chelsea have this season, next season in Europe, you know, we've got a 3-month break now from European fixtures. And I know Enzo Maresca has said today that we still will be able to give game time to players, but it's undoubtedly going to be more difficult to rotate the squad, rotate players when we don't have the depth of other competitions. So I think this is the ideal path for Alfie Gilchrist. You know, he'll be able to come into the squad, back into the squad next season as our third choice right back and be able to play as and where needed. And then Josh Achimpong, who hopefully will make his mark this season, will then go out on loan next season and do exactly the same. And then in 2 years' time, whether Reece James has moved on, whether Malagusto has cemented himself as our right back, whether Gilchrist has outdone them both, you know, between now and 2 years, you know, you're saying to Josh Achimpong, and I can kind of understand why he would want to know what's going on. But at the same time, if you're Chelsea and you kind of lay that picture out of going, look, even if you make an impact in the team this year, it's going to be 2 years until you're starting for anybody, not just us, anybody. And you need to progress in the right way. We don't want to throw you in at the deep end and have the absolute shit kicked out of you at 17, 18, and then you've got no shins by the time you're 25. Because at the end of the day, defenders, we need them to be hardy. We need them to be physical. We need them to be familiar with the brutal nature of the game. And the lower down you send them, the more physical it gets. But I think the Championship is the perfect balance for the quality that these Chelsea youngsters have, as well as being the right kind of step for them in terms of academy, brief bit of game time, Championship, Premier League. I just think Alfie Gilchrist is doing fantastically. Trevor Chalobah obviously got his second goal for Crystal Palace. Ever since he started, he's been a good fixture at the back for them. Got another goal. Obviously, unfortunate to lose in midweek, but he loves Jesus that much. He let the bloke score a hat-trick against him. So can't knock that man. Can't knock your faith, particularly around Christmas time. And Armando Broja, another Chelsea loanee that has recently come back. And you know what? I thought he made a real nuisance of himself against Arsenal. I know he only played, I think, 20 odd minutes, 25 minutes. And he came on, got booked. I thought he was quality. I thought he showed, and look, it's going to take him a while to get back to the fit, fast, agile Armando Broja that we know from his youth days at Chelsea. But look, you know, the elements are there. I think he looks like a big physical, great hold-up player. And look, I know he's on loan. I know it's very likely that he goes. I don't know. I can't remember if there's an obligation. Very likely he goes at the end of the year, particularly with Gu scoring a hat-trick last night, Washington, McNeely, however many strikers we have looking to make an impression. But look, there's a player in there still. Anybody that's written Armando Broja off, I'm telling you, there is a player in there still. There is a striker in there that can get you goals if you give him the service. Kepa Arrizabalaga continues to play in goal for Bournemouth. And I've got to say, I mean, I know Bournemouth are in great form. He has made a couple of... He's had a couple of good performances. I think his game against Tottenham, particularly when they won 1-0, he made a couple of big saves, few big saves. And look, I don't want him back at Chelsea. I'm glad that he's doing well. I'm glad that his game is improving, because at the end of the day, all this means is price tag goes back up. And that is all we are looking to do with Kepa, is recoup as much money as we can. But obviously, we're not going to run through all of them. I think we've done the majority of players that are fairly active at the moment. Obviously, you've got Castle Dine, you've got Ronnie Stutter, you've got a few others in the lower leagues, Sharman Lowe. But the last one that I wanted to touch on, just because we did mention that we were going to say, about players that were going to come back, Leslie Ugochukwu. Now, I thought his loan move to Southampton was a great idea. It even looked to be pretty solid at the start of the season when he seemed to be getting some game time under Russell Martin. I think we'll wait to see who they appoint as his replacement before we get him in. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't prioritise Ugochukwu as a lone player. When Lampard came in as the interim, João Felix, undoubted talent, but wasn't part of the squad, was going to go back to Atletico at the end of the season. To Barca, Atletico, I can't remember. Wherever he was going to go back to, he was going to go back to. So Lampard was like, you know what, I'm going to focus on my players that I've got here that I know are going to be here next season, which is fair enough. And if the new manager at Southampton was to do that, I kind of would understand, and I would appreciate, we would appreciate it, I think, as Chelsea fans, if they turned around to us and said, look, we don't really have that money plans to use him. You might as well, take him back and find another loan move for him. That being said, if we do look at those three centre midfielders that are potentially likely to leave in January, in Carney Chukwuemeka, Cesare Casadei, and Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, I mean, Ugochukwu wouldn't be a bad replacement to have in terms of the depth. I mean, I know he's probably not going to get the minutes here that he would do on loan, but he would play in Europe, with Romeo Lavia, kind of in and out, obviously not fit again for the weekend. It would be good to have a little bit of, strength and depth in backup, but at the same time, it's whether we want to prioritise and whether we think he's going to get more game time with us in the next 6 months, and whether it's that important for us to have that backup, or whether he can go out and do an Andrey Santos, when he came back from Nottingham Forest after a really poor first few months, and we said, look, go Strasbourg, find your feet, and he had an absolutely fantastic second half of the season. So you know what? I think there's probably a limit to how many players we can send to Strasbourg. We've already got probably 3 over there. If we can get Ugochukwu back into League One, that's where he came from, I believe, with Rennes, I think. If we can get him back over to League One, I think that would be a great loan move. Let him finish the second half of the season in more familiar surroundings where he's a little bit more comfortable and happier, because he's obviously miserable at the moment on the South Coast on his own. So look, either bring him back and use him or find him a nice loan move elsewhere. But I personally don't think he should be staying at Southampton for the rest of the season. But let me know what you think, guys. Let me know who you think Chelsea need to recall from loan. Let me know if you think we need to send any other players out on loan. But yeah, as I said, transfer window fast approaching. We will get loads of transfer content for you over the Christmas and New Year period. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure to drop us a thumbs and comment as well, guys. Appreciate everybody that supported. Follow @2blues_podcast on the Instagram, on the TikTok. And tomorrow we will be going live for Everton versus Chelsea. Could Chelsea be top of the table before Liverpool take on Spurs? We will see you there.